Stop talking. You've caused enough trouble in this family. My dad snapped at the hospital. He pointed at the door while nurses stared. Then the doctor said, "Sir, the DNA results are back." My dad's face changed instantly, and I knew everything was about to fall apart. My name is Danielle Carter, and I'm 34 years old. I've spent most of my life trying to prove I wasn't the problem my dad always said I was. I work as a nurse in a small community hospital. I'm not rich or glamorous. My life is simple. I take care of people, work long shifts, and save what I can. My dream has always been peace, not success. Growing up, my parents always praised my younger brother. He was the one they celebrated, the one they believed in. I was the mistake, the disappointment, the one blamed for every fight and every bad moment. If something broke, it was my fault. If money was tight, I was the reason. They told relatives I was difficult and dramatic. Over time, even extended family believed it. I learned to stay quiet. I stopped defending myself because no one listened anyway. But I built a life outside of them, a small apartment, a steady job, friends who became my real family. I wasn't powerful or important, but I had something they didn't expect, and the truth they had buried for decades was about to come out. If you've ever been labeled something you knew you weren't, you understand how heavy that can feel. Subscribe if you've been underestimated or misunderstood. Tell me in the comments, have you ever carried a name that wasn't yours? Let's go. My dad suddenly got sick and needed a kidney transplant. My brother refused testing. The family called me even though we hadn't spoken in months. At the hospital, my parents spoke to me like I was an obligation, not their daughter. The sound of machines beeping filled the room, steady and cold, louder than my own breathing. During testing, my dad made cruel jokes about how I'd probably mess up even this. I swallowed every word. At a family meeting, he said, "For once, do something useful." Relatives watched while I stayed silent, embarrassed. My brother rolled his eyes. My aunt whispered something and they laughed. Then the doctor said something strange. My blood type didn't match. I froze. More tests were ordered. Days passed with tension so heavy it felt like a storm waiting to break. A week later, in front of my parents and brother, the doctor revealed the DNA didn't match either. My dad stood up and shouted. He accused the hospital of mistakes and demanded new tests. My brother pointed at me and said I was lying again. The room went silent when my mother started crying uncontrollably. She covered her face and could not stop. My father accused my mother of betrayal and refused to listen to explanations. He shouted that she had ruined his life. My brother turned the situation against me, saying I had destroyed the family with my drama. Relatives began gossiping. Phone calls spread rumors about my mother and me. My parents tried to control the story, telling everyone I manipulated the test results to hurt them. At a dinner party, my dad stood up and announced that I was an outsider and should leave. I remember the smell of roasted meat and wine filling the air while everyone stared at me. He said I had no place at the table. He threatened to remove me from any inheritance and cut all ties. My brother smirked and said, "You always wanted attention. Now you got it." I struggled emotionally. I questioned my identity and every childhood memory. I wondered if anything in my life had been real. Yet I began to see patterns, the way they always treated me differently, the way my mother watched me with guilt. My resilience grew. I realized I didn't need their approval anymore. Something inside me shifted. I stopped crying. I stopped begging. I started watching. What they didn't know was that I had already started collecting pieces of the truth. Years ago, I found old letters and documents hidden in my grandmother's attic. I had gone there after her funeral, searching for memories. Instead, I found secrets. I had quietly kept them, unsure what they meant. They included hospital records and signed statements. Some names were circled. Some pages were missing. I also had recordings of family arguments where secrets slipped out in anger. My father once said, "No one can ever know." My mother begged him to stop. I knew there was more to my story than anyone admitted. I had a plan, but I waited for the right moment. I wanted them to feel safe. I wanted them to believe I was weak. So I stayed quiet and let them think they had already won. I reached out to my childhood friend Lily, the only person who always stood by me. She listened without judgment. She said, "You were never the problem." She helped me organize everything and encouraged me not to stay silent. Together, we tracked down a retired nurse who had worked at the hospital when I was born. It took weeks, but we found her. She remembered my mother. She remembered the chaos that night. The family grew confident, thinking I was broken and alone. They started making plans without me. I overheard them dividing property and responsibilities. My brother talked about selling the house. My father laughed about cutting me off completely. Their arrogance made them careless. They did not see what was coming. The confrontation happened in a lawyer's office during a meeting about my dad's estate. I walked in calm. My parents expected me to sign papers giving up any claim. My father pushed the pen toward me. "Sign and leave," he said. I looked him in the eyes and said, "Not today." Instead, I presented the documents and recordings. The room went quiet. The retired nurse joined by video call and revealed the truth. I had been switched at birth due to a hospital error, and my mother knew but was forced to stay silent. My dad had discovered it years ago but chose to hide it to protect his reputation. The lawyer confirmed everything was legally documented. My brother realized the inheritance situation was now uncertain. My father tried to shout, but his own lies exposed him. I leaned forward and said, "You called me the problem, but you were hiding the truth." For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. I chose not to stay in the chaos. I walked away from the family drama. I focused on my life, career, and the people who truly cared about me. My mother later reached out asking for forgiveness. I listened, but I set boundaries. My father faced the consequences of his lies and lost respect from relatives. I heard he became quiet and withdrawn. I learned that identity isn't given by blood or words. It's built by choices. I was never the problem. I was simply the truth they couldn't control. If you've ever been labeled the problem or blamed for things you didn't do, you know that pain. Share your story in the comments. Let this be a safe place where your truth matters. Subscribe to join others who refuse to carry false labels. Click Hype to help this story reach others who need it. Your story has power. If you felt a connection to mine, please subscribe and share your journey in the comments. Every hype you give this video helps empower someone else. Thank you for being here and for listening.